Today we're talking about 6 things to do around Moab. Started off with number 1.
Number 1, obviously Arches National Park. So much to do and see there.
Yeah, you definitely cannot go to the Moab area and not go to Arches. It's just such a unique landscape. I mean, it looks almost like another planet.
Yeah. We found the way we like to approach Arches was to, first thing in the morning, drive all the way to the back of the park and then work our way back out.
Yeah, it's a little tough because you're driving by and like literally these cool spots you want to see are right next to the road and you just like fly right on by them. But it worked out really well for us because the first thing we did was the landscape arch hike. And you want to see that in the morning because that's when the light is best on it, and it's a little cooler for doing kind of the longest hike of the day.
Next, obviously, is Canyonlands, another great national park.
Yeah, I mean that's the big draw of Moab, right? Is you've got 2 national parks and a great state park all within about 20 minutes of the town. When we did Canyonlands, we did Grand Viewpoint Trail.
Yes.
And that was a mile in, a mile out. It's very exposed, so if it's a hot day, beware.
Not much shade.
And if it's like a wild weather kind of day, also beware.
Yeah.
It's very exposed on the top.
Because you're
there.
just walking right, and the cliff is right there with no barrier protection. So no dogs are allowed on that trail.
But there's amazing views the entire time because you're right on the canyon edge for most of the trail, and then it switches over to the other canyon edge.
Right on the edge of the cliff there makes it a very flat hike, not too much elevation change, so it's not a super strenuous hike.
The other main attraction of the Island in the Sky part of Canyonlands is, of course, Mesa Arch.
Oh, yes.
And Mesa Arch is the place where you see pictures of at sunrise, like you pull back and there's like 150 photographers there or something. So if you want a sunrise picture at Mesa Arch, that's going to be very crowded.
Yeah.
We ended up at Mesa Arch in the afternoon, and I think if you're not going to be there for sunrise, the afternoon is probably a good time to be there because that brings the light to the front side of the arch where you're facing.
So the arch is illuminated, and it's really beautiful any time of day.
Yeah, and we were lucky because the day before it snowed up in the mountains, and so all of our views back towards those mountains, they were all beautifully snow-capped.
And number 3, Dead Horse Point State Park has some really interesting views.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool place to be. When we were doing our research for this trip, somebody said that Utah kept the best vista for themselves by having that be the state park and not be part of a national park. It is a really beautiful place. The river just kind of bends around below you.
It's not a real hike, mostly an overlook and wandering around.
We had the fortunate experience.
Or unfortunate. Bitter unfortunate.
I think it was fortunate. When we got there, it started raining and then it hailed on us and it was almost like snow.
Very cold.
It was very cold. It was very stormy. Everything looked bleak, and
you could hardly see anything.
All the views were they just weren't great. And so we got in the car and we were going to leave. And as we were driving out, somebody said, "Well, why don't we just wait a few more minutes and see what's going to happen? I have a feeling it might clear." And sure enough, it cleared, and we had probably the most glorious sunset that we've had in a long time.
Yeah, it was really beautiful.
And all of the views and the light were just amazing.
Number 4, drive along the river on State Route 279.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to see if you go south from Moab on 279. The first thing you get to is petroglyphs that are literally on the rock wall next to the road. It's a pretty cool place to stop.
Yep. You gotta kind of keep your eyes open though because could be easy to miss if you're just flying by.
Yeah, there's signs along the road it says petroglyphs, and there's an arrow pointing to a rock wall right by the road. And
it's like right along the freeway.
And there's petroglyphs right there, and there's a pull-out area right across on the riverside. So that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then a little bit further down the road, there's a place where there's dinosaur tracks. That has a like full-on pull-out parking lot kind of area.
Mm-hmm. It's gravel. And there's a short, kind of steep hike to get up to actually see the fossils, but very, very short. Definitely worth a stop.
Yeah, and they're cool. They're big. They're bigger than your hand. The one thing I would say about that area is it seems like that's a place where a lot of people are parking and unloading for like the off-roading kind of stuff. And so that parking lot got a little crazy while we were there.
It is. We almost got blocked in when we parked to go look at the fossils by all of the trucks with their trailers and their off-road vehicles.
So also on that road, there are a few places where there's arches to see.
We happened to just pull over at one spot so Greg could fly the drone, and the kids found this little trail that went on a little offshoot of the river on a little creek, and we walked on the creek bed right along these cliff walls, and it was really cool.
Yeah, it's a very pretty side canyon.
Nana told me to do that.
And then at the end of this road, it turns into kind of a dirt road, and so we drove down that a ways, and you go by, I think it's a potash operation of some sort, and you can keep going on this dirt road and just be back further into kind of the back country of the desert there. We saw some bighorn sheep, which was pretty cool.
And number 5, get out on the river.
Yeah, the river is definitely a draw in the area, and there's lots of ways you can get out on the river. The river north of Moab seems to be pretty gentle.
At least when we were there.
Right, do your own research and make sure you're being responsible. But that's potentially an area where if you had a raft or a kayak or something like that, you could put it in and float down the river.
But it is a really beautiful place, and all along that river up to the north of Moab, there were several different like dry camping campgrounds that we saw there. They have really beautiful views of the river there with trees and everything.
Yeah, it's a beautiful drive for sure. That's the way we left Moab.
And number 6, get off-road.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who go to Moab just to get off-road, and you can go through town and you'll see the side-by-sides just driving on the streets, and people love to take their Jeeps to Moab, and there's trails all over. You can take the kind of the dirt roads. There's one that comes up into the backside of Canyonlands, but there's trails all over in that area. It's a fun thing to do. Again, we didn't get to do it because it didn't fit into the 3 days we were there, but if we were going back, that's something we would look into doing for sure. That leads us into a few bonus tips of what we will do next time we're in Moab. So I think the first thing we would do is we would try to arrange a tour or get into the fiery furnace part of Arches. I think you need a guided tour, or at least you need some sort of special permit, and we would definitely try to get into that area because just seeing it from above, it looked pretty cool, but we've seen pictures or videos of people who get into it, and it looks really cool.
Also, we didn't take much time to get any star shots or night photography, which is a really cool thing to do.
Yeah, it's just, we like to get our kids to bed on time, and when the sun's going down at like 8:30, it's hard to stick around until it gets dark enough to do that kind of stuff. But next time we're there, our kids will be older, and we will definitely try to make sure we do something with the stars.
And you know, that's the thing about traveling with kids. Make it work for your family, and even though you might not do all the things, you'll still have a really great time. So just get out there and do it.
And then the third thing that we would do next time we're back in the Moab area is we would try to get into the Needles section of Canyonlands, which is, I think it's about an hour drive south of Moab.
Yeah.
We just didn't have a chance to go that far on this trip. But from our research, there's some really cool hikes that are in that Needles section, and it's just a completely different perspective on Canyonlands. So that's it. That's our 6 things to do around Moab, plus a few bonus tips.
Let us know what your favorite thing to do around Moab is. Leave a comment below and let us know.
We are still young, and our hearts still run.